Hello, my name is Randy Fairfield, Mr. Ed Tech, and today I'm so glad that you decided to join this webinar on how to you look at Edmodo and the things that they've done with Google integration. I'm going to wait for just a few minutes to see if I get people joining in, and we'll get your voices and your ideas and love to hear those today. So I'm going to wait just a few minutes as people start to join in. If you can come live or go on the side where it says Q&A. You can feel free to ask any questions you might have about Edmodo and Google integration, and I'd love to respond to some of the questions that you have for those of you that are attending the webinar today. Right now it shows that there aren't any viewers that have jumped into the webinar yet, and so I'm wondering if there might be some kind of technical difficulty, but we'll hang tight and get that all sorted out. And this is my first time doing a Google Hangout live on air, so be patient with me as we learn together. I'm going to open up the chat room here and see if any of you have joined there. If you have, along the right-hand side, you can participate in the group chat on the Hangout. And as of right now, it's still showing 0 viewers for the event. So I'm wondering if there might be some type of glitch. I'm going to go to the actual Google integration, Edmodo and Google integration webinar Google Plus page where I've seen some comments. And I'm going to add one myself. So maybe there's a chance for you to add your comment as well. It did appear as if there were going to be 15 people participating in the webinar today, and with the possibility of maybe 6 more. So hopefully everyone is able to join up and we're able to learn from each other. Hey, it looks like we have 1 viewer now. So we were at 0 before, so I'm going to go ahead and go to the bottom right-hand corner here and say hello in the group chat. And whoever it is that joined can feel free to say hey. We'll give it a little more time. I'm hoping a few more people will come besides just the 1 viewer that we've got right now. And for the 1 person that did join up, I've left a message over here in the group chat on the side, and you can find that up on the top left corner. There's a chat button that's blue, and if you wanted to click on that and leave me a message, that would be great, just to let me know that you're there. Also on the Google Plus page for the webinar, you could leave a comment down on that page below as well. I'm going to turn on the Q&A app here on the side, and if you have any questions that you wanted to ask, you could ask those over here on the side. It's a nice feature with Google Hangouts, is the ability to have your audience ask questions. A great way to use this as well, if you're doing a Google Hangout with your class, you can post the link to the Hangout up on your Edmodo classroom and have your class join in sometime outside of class time, and use the chat feature and the Q&A feature here to respond to any questions that the classmates might have. Looks like we're up to 2 viewers. And just for me to verify that the folks that are here, if you wanted to go over to the group chat on the bottom right corner, there's a place for you to type a chat message in. On the top left, there's that blue chat icon that you could click and say hello if you're interested. Also, if you wanted to, there's Elizabeth from Peru. And I just saw her message. She posted on the Google Plus page. So great to hear from you, Elizabeth. And since it's 4:06, I guess we'll go ahead and get started. Today, my objective is really to tell you a little bit about the progress that Edmodo has made with their Google integration, and show you what the product team has done recently to improve that integration, and then also to offer you some demonstrations on how you might use the various Google apps for education to integrate with Edmodo and really achieve student-centered outcomes. And so that's really my heart, is using these tools in such a way that your students are going to benefit. And so I'll tell you a little bit about how all of this came to be. For myself, I became an Edmodo certified trainer after speaking at EdmodoCon last year, and continued that relationship with Edmodo as I met everybody at EdmodoCon. And as I became a technology instructional coach in my school district and was presenting people with Edmodo, and also as our district had gone with Google Apps for Education, a lot of teachers were trying to make the decision about what to choose, if they were going to go with Edmodo or go with Google Classroom or use some combination of both. And I found that in those discussions that I was having with teachers, we had gone so heavy with Google that they thought the natural fit was to go with Google Classroom. And since I'm so passionate about Edmodo and really using it as a social learning platform and really connecting with students, that saddened me a great deal, because Google Classroom sometimes can be cold. It can be a great place for the workflow, and there's a lot of nice things that you can do with it. But Edmodo has so many more features, and particularly the ability to individualize and differentiate for your students is something that I really love about Edmodo. And so as I watched some teachers make the decision one way or the other, and that made me kind of sad, and I gave the feedback to the Edmodo product team about some of the decisions that people were making. And I asked them, what can you guys do to really improve that Google integration and make it to where teachers, when they're trying to make the decision about what learning management system to use, and I really don't like that phrase for Edmodo so much, because it's more than that. It's a social learning platform. But when teachers are starting to make that decision about whether to go with Edmodo or Google Classroom, how can we make it to where they can more easily see how Edmodo and Google Apps for Education can be used alongside one another, how we can integrate them together? And one of the things that has always been great about Edmodo is their support team, and their product team is always really responsive to the users. And so they listened to the feedback that I had given them, and they went to work and started to really improve the product. And as a result of that, I've had the opportunity presenting at different Google summits around my state at these conferences to really share about what Edmodo has done to integrate with Google. And there's a lot of teachers that are making the choice to stick with Edmodo, or even first time, going one way or the other, they're choosing Edmodo because they can see the level of integration. And so today I'd like to demonstrate some of that. I think one of the best things of all that I guess I can just say rather than show is that when you go to sign in, or when your students go to sign in, Edmodo has added the option to sign in with Google. And that's just huge, especially for elementary school teachers that don't want to have to worry about another login. So the students have gotten the Chromebooks. They've already had to log in with their district account to log into the Chromebook. Going to Edmodo for an additional login was something that some people didn't like so much. And so Edmodo added the option to just simply click sign in with Google, and automatically, boom, right there, you're in. So that adding that extra step of not having to do an additional login, especially for elementary school teachers, that's been really huge. Besides that, I think one of the best things that Edmodo has done has really worked to improve the integration with Edmodo Library and with Google Drive. And so I'm going to go ahead and pull that up on my screen here. I'm going to do a screen share and show you what that looks like now. And so over here on my screen, you can see I've got a testing lab and lesson planning. I always suggest for folks that are using Edmodo that you have some kind of group where you can just experiment and play around without really affecting anything. And so if I go up here to my library, this is where Edmodo has added this option in here to connect with your Google Drive. And once I get in there, I can see all of the folders in my Google Drive. And I've got a lot of folders and a lot of files. And so one of the things that I think is really, really neat is, one, you can sort here by the name of the folder or the file. If you click it, it'll change the sorting alphabetically from top to bottom or bottom to top, and also the modified date. And you can click on that and sort in that way, which is helpful because then the most recently added thing will jump to the top. But I think the best part of the whole thing is right up here where you can search for something in your drive. And so I'll show you how this can be really useful later when you're going to post an assignment or a note to your class and you want to include something from your Google Drive. After you've gone and synced up your drive in the library, then when you go to post a note or an assignment, and I'll jump into my test group here. When I go to post a note or assignment, I simply go down to the library, click, and can go right into my Google Drive and search for something. So if I typed in, Civil War, for example, right here, and hit enter, then my folder that has on Google Drive that has all of my resources shows up, as well as this PDF that had Civil War in the title. And this is where it can become really, really important for a teacher to make sure that they're naming their files well in their Google Drive. That way, when you go to find things to attach to your Edmodo assignments or to your Edmodo posts, it's really quick and easy to find it, as long as you're naming your files and your folders well. And so that's a suggestion that I have, is really be smart about the way that you name your folders and your files. So if I wanted to attach this PDF, for example, I simply just click attach to post, and right there from my Edmodo library, which is synced to my Google Drive, I can attach something from my drive to my note. And you can do this with an assignment as well, which is super, super helpful. So in that regard, one of the questions that a lot of teachers have is, how do I make a copy of a Google Doc or a Google Slides presentation? How do I make a copy of one of these for each student in the class to then turn around and submit? And for teachers that have been using Edmodo for a while, you know that with Microsoft files, so if any Word or PowerPoints, the student that you attach, students click on those and automatically can jump into the Office 365 integration and have their own copy to easily turn in. And so teachers are looking for some of those same features with the Google assignments that they make in Docs and Slides. And so with that, one thing that you might have noticed when I was going to attach something to the post here, I'm going to type in webinar, is that there's an option down below that says allow users that have connected their Google account to edit. So if I'm going in here and I pick a file out that, and most of mine here are PowerPoints and docs from back in the day when I was still using Microsoft stuff. But if I go ahead and pull something up in a folder, let's see, let's do this one, Jefferson. Let me see. I'm trying to find a good folder here that has a lot of Google stuff in it. But if I open up one of these things from my drive and give students permission to edit it, all the students in the class can edit it. I'm going to take the shortcut here and just go right into my drive here and change the permissions from here. So for example, if I wanted to give this Google Doc out to every student in the class, I could attach it from the library, or I could also do this. There's a little shortcut. I can right click on it and share. And then when I share, I want to get a shareable link that I can post to my Edmodo group. And I need to set this in such a way that if I give anyone permission to edit, then the whole class will be able to edit that one doc. Or I can allow just anyone in the class to comment on it or just view. But what if I wanted to make a copy? And you'll see that that Google doesn't give you that choice to make a copy for everyone. And so the nice little trick here is if you grab this link where it says anyone can view or anyone can edit, and you copy that, and then you go up to the address bar here and paste. If you take that last part that says edit and USP and sharing out and write the word copy, it's going to change the link a bit so that anyone that now grabs this link and clicks on it it'll ask them to make a copy of that doc. And this works with both docs and with slides. And so if I hit the enter button, you can see now I've got this option to make a copy of the doc. And so if you take this link right here and you post that link up on your class, what will happen then is that when the students click on it, they will be invited to make a copy of that link as well. So here I'd say, here is your assignment, and please place the copy of this Google Doc in your folder for the class. And so then I'd go down here and share this link that has copy at the end and hit attach. And I could rename the assignment to say whatever I'd like. And then when I go ahead and send it out to my class, when the students click, they will be invited to make a copy of the assignment. Now, this is one part that becomes really crucial for the students when, after they've made the copy of the doc, for them to turn it back into you so that you can see it and you can edit it or comment on it. I would suggest at the very start of your school year that you tell your students to make a folder in their Google Drive for your class. And that just happens. The button used to be red. It just changed to blue over the summer. When you click that button and then go to new and explicitly show your students how to do this, you'll then go to new and say Mr. Fairfield's class and have your students make this folder. Maybe it's your 8th grade language arts class. Have them make this folder, have them right click and share, and have them type in your email address and give you permission to edit that folder. That will be important because if that's happened, they should then take the copy of the doc that they just made or the copy of the slides file that they just made and drag and drop that right into that folder. And once they've done that, then you will, anything that goes into that folder, you will have permission to edit. So at the start of the school year, have them make a folder, give you permission to edit the folder, and every file that's Google related that goes into that folder, you will have access to view and to edit, which is really, really helpful for grading. And so for this assignment here, maybe it was a writing assignment. I would have the students make a copy, dump it into the folder, and say I posted that assignment up on my group here for the students. I would have them go to the assignment and actually, rather than turning in the assignment when it was due, I would have them go into the assignment, click turn in, and then paste the link to the copy of the Google Doc that they just made as an assignment comment. And what that would allow me to do is, rather than waiting until the very end when the assignment was due to grade it and give them feedback, I could then go into the assignment and click on their link and in real time give them feedback on how they were doing on the assignment, which was totally awesome because it allowed them to get feedback from me in a way that would really be meaningful to them and correct mistakes as they were making them. And before, when I passed back papers that had been handwritten, a lot of times the students would look at the remarks I made very briefly, look at their overall grade, and toss the paper in the waste basket. So getting that real-time feedback in the Google Doc and also through the assignment comments I leave on Edmodo really left lasting meaning for the students and really led to learning. Another question that some teachers have asked about the assignments that they're creating for their students in Google Drive and how to get those out to them on Edmodo. One of the things at my school that's gotten really, really popular is having students work in small groups of, say, 4 or 5 on a Google Slides presentation. And so one of the things that I used to do for my students was I would create a template for them to add to in their small group and work on that in those groups of 4 and 5. And the nice trick is, rather than having the students make their own copy, you can actually do some of the legwork for them to save them some time. So say, for example, this Google Slides file here was one that I wanted to make a copy of for everyone for like 5 or 6 different copies so that all the students in my class would have their own. What you can do in Google Drive is right-click and make a copy. And so I would do this a few times. Make a copy and make a copy. And if you do that 5 or 6 times, you'll have one for everybody. And then I'd go back through and rename this and say group 1. Right click and rename and say group 2. And right click and rename and so forth. You get the idea. Now I can then take the copy of the file that I made for a template and right click, click share, get the shareable link. Anyone with the link can view. No, I want to say anyone with the link can edit. And I'm going to say anyone. And the reason for that is because rather than the only people that are going to have this link are going to be the people that are in my small group that I've posted this link to. So I'm going to take that file here and go to assignment. And in the assignment, go down to, and I could do this from the library, or I can just simply post the link and say, there you go. And then I can send this assignment out and do the other things here in the Edmodo assignment and send this out. Now the only students in the classroom that have the link are the ones that are in this Edmodo small group. And that's a really, really neat way to get the students to have multiple places to collaborate. They can be working on the slide deck in class in real time. And then outside of class, my students would post on the assignment in their small group and say, hey guys, do you want to get together tonight at 7 o'clock? And then we can all get together on the Google slide presentation and work on it together. So they would coordinate outside of class time on Edmodo and work together to get together and be working on their presentations outside of class. Sometimes my students would get into these small groups and they'd say, hey, let's get together at 7:30. And they jump on Google Hangouts and be collaborating with each other through video chat while they were working on their slides file. It was almost like they were in class together and working, but they were doing it outside of class. And I saw a lot of things that were really, really neat that the students were able to do outside of class time as a result of being able to work in the Google Apps for Education and use Edmodo to help coordinate that time where they would work together. So that's one really, really neat way to get the students to be collaborating together with Edmodo and Google Apps for Education. So those are two, I think, of the main things that questions that I've gotten from teachers is how to make copies of assignments that you've created in Google Docs for each student, as well as how to create collaborative slide decks for students to be working on and how you would do that with Edmodo. And so I hope those two demonstrations that I just showed y'all will really help you out with that. I'm going to go ahead and open it up for some Q&A right now. So I can see there's some viewers down here right now. And if I go here to the Q&A, it looks like one person, Pam, is having a hard time viewing the video, unfortunately. So hopefully she was able to get that straightened out. Is there anyone else that has any questions related to the Google and Edmodo integration that I might address? I'll give you a little bit of time to think about that and post up any questions that you might have. There's, of course, some other things that I'd be willing to share with you for those of you that are still viewing, but it would be best, I think, to, especially since there's so few of you right now, for me to just respond to any questions that you might have. You can ask those questions right here in the Hangout, or if you'd like, you can go to the webinar homepage and post up here as well. And it looks like some people have had a hard time getting into the Hangout. There's a couple of people that say they're watching the webinar on YouTube, but they had a hard time with the Hangout. And one thing that I'll tell you a bit about is that Hangouts on Air is actually going to be going away as of September 12th. So this is actually my first time hosting a Hangout on Air. And it may be my last. YouTube Live is going to be launching after September 12th. And that'll be something new for us all to learn. So Elizabeth said that she's watching the webinar on YouTube and can write here. And she's starting to use Edmodo because she's doing a master's course on the use of Edmodo, improving writing skills. And Elizabeth, I would really suggest, if you haven't, that's awesome that you're doing that. I actually wrote my master's thesis on the use of Edmodo in an alternative setting. And so it's great to see you pursuing that. One of the suggestions I have for you, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again, is with some of the work that Edmodo has done with their Google integration, they asked me to put together a Edmodo topic around Edmodo and Google integration. And one of the videos that I posted in the topic, right now pinned across the top is the link to this webinar. But after the webinar is over, I'm going to go ahead and repin a post to the top here. And there's all kinds of different videos that I've created to really help you use the Google Apps for Education and Edmodo together. One of the videos that I made was how to use Edmodo and Google Docs to enhance teacher feedback to students. And I'd encourage you to check that video out. It goes into some detail on some of the features in Google Docs with your ability to comment on student work. And I shared a little bit about how you can give real-time feedback to students while they're working in Google Docs using the chat feature. And a lot of that stuff is highlighted in this video. And I'd encourage you as you work on your master's to take a look at this, because one of the things that I noticed with students in writing is that they really responded to the feedback that I gave them through Edmodo and Google Docs much better than when I gave them the feedback on pencil and paper. Another thing that I'd encourage teachers with as they have their students writing is that one of the most important things for students in writing is audience. And I found that with my students, and particularly when they were working on narrative writing, they really, the audience was everything. Rather than writing for me, they didn't care so much about what I thought of their paper unless it concerned their grade. But I did find that they were very interested in giving their writing, especially the narrative, to each other. And so I actually had to create a small group in Edmodo to allow students to share their writing with each other. And what was so powerful was there were some students in class that loved to write but really struggled with grammar. And so they'd put their narrative rights up in the small group that I created specifically for this purpose. Other students who maybe didn't love to write so much but liked to read the other students' work, they would jump into the Google Doc and use the comment feature and comment on each other's grammar and make suggestions on how to improve their writing. And so some of my top students in my class, they loved being able to get in there and give feedback to other students. And so there was all kinds of teaching and learning that were happening from the students that didn't include me, that was just happening on its own by me providing that place for students to collaborate through the Edmodo small groups and by having them work on the docs and share with each other. And that was just so powerful and so neat for me to see, was how much learning was happening without me having to do anything but facilitate that through the educational technology. And so I'd encourage you, as you're working on your master's, really think about audience. The students, they really came to life when writing for each other became their audience. There's another video that I've posted about authentic assessment. And I think that's another really powerful piece. When you give students a real audience for their writing, as opposed to just writing an essay for their teacher. But if they're really writing, say, a letter to the newspaper that's actually being sent to the newspaper, when that audience becomes real, that writing takes on so much more meaning for them. And so there's another video I'd encourage you to watch on project-based learning and authentic assessment and how to use Edmodo and the Google Apps for Education to facilitate that I hope you will find informative as you're working on your master's. I'm going to take a look and see if there are any other questions that people have posted. Someone else here says they have a hard time accessing the video. Okay, so they have two different Gmail accounts and they're trying to figure out which one is working. For Sandy McConnell, she's posted that she had to go to YouTube and watch as well. So it looks like right now, most people haven't been able to get on the Hangouts and use the Q&A there. But if you have any questions at all, I do see your questions here on the Google Plus page. So please feel free to continue to post those as well. All right. and I'm looking at the chat, see if anybody's in the chat, and I'm not seeing anything there. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to another topic, which is why you might consider using Google Sites. And a lot of teachers that have, that I work with, they're wondering, they're just jumping into, this Edmodo world and this Google world, and they're trying to figure out, what should I do? Should I make everything up on Google Sites and put all my class resources up on there for my classroom website? Should I put everything on Edmodo? Should I use Google Classroom? What should I go with? And my encouragement to teachers is always to really think about what you're really going for. What is your end goal? What is it that you're really trying to get out of things? And if you'd really like to have that environment that facilitates social learning, which is what Edmodo does so well, where students are able to collaborate with one another online and have discussions, these types of things, there's no better platform to facilitate that than Edmodo. If you're just looking for something to have the students, download different files that you post, you could use Google Sites for that. I think one of the great things is you can use these different tools in complementary ways. And so for me, Edmodo was that social learning platform that was the hub of all things digital, where everything was posted. And so this might kind of sound silly to you for those of you that have been using Edmodo for a long time, but I actually never really used and wasn't even aware for the longest time of the folder feature in Edmodo. And that might sound strange to a lot of you, because a lot of you I know really use those Edmodo's folders and really organize all of your things there. For me, what I did was I simply had a folder in my class, for my class in Google Drive. And I would post everything for the class inside of that folder in Google Drive. And of course, there were folders and subfolders and all that. And so I used Google Drive in lieu of the folder feature here in Edmodo. And I think because I wasn't aware of the folder feature being there, I never once had a student ask me about it. And I don't know that they were all that aware of it either. I had one teacher that tried to flip their classroom in the year before me coming to the school that I'm at. And he was perplexed, because he said, I tried to flip my classroom and I made all of these folders in Edmodo and I sorted it out by unit and I had all my videos in the folders. But my students, they said they couldn't find the videos. And so I do wonder sometimes if maybe that folder feature is something where students aren't really going as much to look for information. But by having things up in the Google Drive folder that I had, whenever I posted an assignment or whenever I posted a note and included the link to the appropriate place in the folder for the students to go, that really helped. One of the things that I really love about Edmodo now is the pinned post feature. And I'm going to show that to you real fast for those of you watching. So I'll pull the screen share up. And one of the things that you can do if you're looking to use Google Drive and store all the files for your classes on your drive as opposed to actually in the folders for your classes, one thing that you could do is simply have a pinned post that you place at the top of your group. And so for this class here that I taught last year, that's kind of one of the things that we did inside of the, I actually took down their small groups. But what I did was I split each of the students into two different small groups. Half of the class was in one and the other half of the class was in the other. And across the top of each group, I would take the link to the folder in the Google Drive for the class and have that be a pinned post across the top of the small group. And you can pin a post to the top of your small group in Edmodo or even your main classroom wall simply by clicking on the little arrow next to the post and then saying pin post. And so I would take the folder in my Google Drive for that class, post it up on the class wall, then pin that post to the top of the class wall. And effectively that served as a replacement for the folder feature that I never even realized was there in Edmodo. And so inside of that pinned post in that folder in my Google Drive would be my course syllabus and things broken down by unit and the different PDFs that, you know, the students might need to access throughout the school year. So all of these things I would put in my Google Drive and sort out there, then pin the post up on my Edmodo group, and that effectively replaced the folder feature, which was kind of nice. Another thing that you might consider when it comes to Google Sites, which I said I was going to talk about, and then I got a little sidetracked. But Google Sites can be used, you know, to really present things in a very public way, and you can do that with Edmodo as well. One of the things that for a long time I didn't realize is you can actually take a post that you've made and then make that post public, which is kind of cool. So if I went to my main class wall here and posted something up, I could make this public to anyone to view. And then there's also a link up here in the group settings for a public URL. And so you can make a group on Edmodo that's completely public on the web and make your post public, and then share this URL out to anyone, parents, for example. If you wanted to post things on your wall that were completely public to parents, you could do that. For me, one of the things that I liked using Google Sites for was I had a class site for just to introduce myself and get myself out there to parents. And then I also posted a number of tutorials on how to use Edmodo up on my teacher website. And at the time I wasn't using Google Sites. Our district hadn't gone there yet, but I did have a class website that my school district provided space for. And so this is where I would share information, you know, with parents and put these tutorials. And so a student in my class, an alternative school, I had students frequently, you know, dropping in or dropping the class and going somewhere else, or new students coming in. And so the first thing that I had students do when they'd come in to the school mid-year was go to my teacher website and watch the tutorials on how to use Edmodo. And from there, they were easily able to slide into the class and be where everyone else was at as far as knowing how to use Edmodo. And since I used it pretty extensively, that was a very important initiation for the students once they came into the class. So that's an idea on how you can use Google Sites alongside Edmodo, if that's something you're interested in doing. One of the things that is really neat with Google Sites, which I'll pull up here, is that with Google Sites, you simply go sites.google.com. Everything's always something.google.com. But with the Google Sites, you have the ability to allow multiple collaborators on that site. And so, for example, with this site I'm the owner of, if I go on the click on the share button, I could actually add people in here to be co-collaborators that can edit this site with me. And so one of the things that's really neat is you can not only build, you know, a website for yourself as a teacher, but you could also have your students building websites themselves using Google Sites. And you can use Edmodo to coordinate some of that work and post the link to the site that, say, a small group is working on up in the small group and have it be a pinned post. And then the students can collaborate and talk on Edmodo about the website that they're building while working on Google Sites. And in fact, a new Google Sites is going to be launching in 2 or 3 weeks, I believe. If for those of you that are in a school district that has a Google domain. And what'll be really neat is the ability to drag and drop and collaborate in real time in Google Sites. And so you can have students building the site as well. One of the things that is really neat with sites is that you can give different permissions for different pages as well. And so I work in a school district where we have the Avid program at our school, and I built a Google site for the students that are in our Avid program to come and download, say, the different notes or things that are here. And on the side, on this tab here, I've got a website for a web page for each of the 3 different Avid elective classes. One thing that I'm going to work on this year with the students in the elective classes is having a couple students, giving them permission to edit their class webpage, and they can take ownership of that. And so that'll be a neat thing that'll happen at my school this year. One thing that's really nice with Google Sites as well is you can have a Google Doc embedded into the site, or a Google Slides presentation, for example, embedded into the Google site. And that will then allow real-time collaboration to happen on the Google Doc or on the Google Slide. And as soon as the slide or the doc updates, the website is then updated as well. So that's a really nice feature with Google Sites. And I think that that's something that you really want to be able to take advantage of. And so posting the links to these Google Sites and managing the sharing of these sites to allow students or other teachers that you work with to be able to collaboratively work on the Google site. And then using Edmodo and the Edmodo small groups to help facilitate some of that coordination. I think that could be a really useful and powerful way to integrate Edmodo and Google Sites together. So just a neat idea there. I'm going to go look and see if I've got any questions on the chat or on the Q&A or up on the Google Plus page. I don't see anything in the chat. I'll look in the Q&A. All right, nothing there. I'll check the Google Plus page. And some people are still having a hard time with the Hangout itself, but they're able to watch the Hangout on YouTube, which is kind of nice. So no new questions there. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next idea here, which is how to use Google Forms and Edmodo together. And Google Forms is probably my favorite of all the Google apps for education. If I was back in the classroom, I think I would probably be using a Google Form for every class just about every day, which might be a pretty bold thing to say, but I'm going to explain to you why. First, I'd like to take a look at the Google Quiz feature. There's a lot of overlap between the Google Quiz feature and the Edmodo Quiz feature and Google Forms. So when you go to make a Google quiz or an Edmodo quiz, which I'm sure a number of you have already done, you've got the options for multiple choice, true, false, short answer, fill in the blank, matching. But really, this is something that is useful for just a quiz for the most part. And one thing that's nice is when you're creating the quiz, you can make the choice to add it to the gradebook or not. And so I'd encourage you to think about quizzes not just as some summative assessment at the end. That's the end of all things, but also use it as a formative assessment to help you inform your instruction and make decisions about what you're going to teach towards. And one of the things that's really nice about Google Forms is the ability to do some of those same things that the Edmodo quiz feature is asking you to do, but it also will allow you to really pull up that whole class data in real time in front of everyone, which is really nice. And I'm going to pull up a survey that the staff at my school just took today on Google Forms. They were talking about strategies in our school and which ones they felt comfortable with and which ones they wanted to learn more about. They were also taking a survey on educational technology and what they felt comfortable with and what did they want to learn more about. And so I'm going to pull that survey up because it'll really show you some really nice data. And what was so awesome was right as soon as they were done taking the survey, I was able to pull that data up in front of them, have that discussion about what they had just responded to in that survey, and have that inform the discussion in real time. So a lot of school districts, they've spent a lot of money on those clickers. I know I had a set of clickers that the district had provided to me that I never had learned how to use. They seemed like it was more trouble than it was worth. Google Forms allows you to take care of a lot of that same stuff that you're using clickers for, or say using SurveyMonkey for, and you can do so much with it. So here we had some questions about growth mindset, about Avid strategies, and about educational technologies. And what was nice is as the responses to the Google form came in, you were able to see that number increase. And you can then click on the responses tab and see all of the data in real time about how the staff felt about things. So here's one way that you could use Google Forms and Edmodo together. After you're done making your form, which is really pretty easy to do, there's options here on the side when you add questions to have there be multiple choice, check boxes, short answer, paragraph answer, and you simply add the questions in here and can drag and drop. But once you've finished making your form, then you go up here where it says send and grab the link. You can then take that link right there and post that link up to your Edmodo group and have the form sent out in that way. And what's really nice about doing it in that way is it allows you to grab anonymous feedback from your students if you want the feedback to be anonymous, which you couldn't do with the quiz feature in Edmodo because the names are associated with the quiz as they take it. But with Google Forms, you could choose to have the form be anonymous, which it was in this case. And that allows then the whole class, you put data up about the whole class and different things that they did in a very formative way that's not judgmental. And you put the data up in front of the class and you can see, as a class, how they were getting things right or wrong and focus in on the areas that they were struggling. So that can be a really neat way to use Google Forms together. I'd actually created a Google form that was about my class, and once a quarter I would have the students take an evaluation using Google Forms about how they felt my class was going. And that allowed me to then be responsive to how my students felt about my class. And one of the things that I had a students once say to me was, in the Google form, which I'm sure they never would have said to me in person, but they said to me, he only talks to me when I'm failing. And when I got that feedback from that student on the Google form after the first quarter, I really spent a lot of time thinking about who that student might be and if I was really guilty of that. And that really transformed my practice. And so it was taking that Google form, sharing the link on Edmodo, and having my students take those surveys that really helped that happen. And if you go to my website, I'm going to pull that up real fast here at mredtech.com. If I can find it, I'm going to close this page out. And if you go to mredtech.com and go down to Google Sites from there, I've got a computer that's spending a little too much time loading. But when you go to mredtech.com, I've got all kinds of resources posted under Edmodo and under Google for EDU. And if you wanted to shoot me an email, if you're interested in getting, for example, that survey that I put together under Google Forms, there's this course evaluation survey that I created. And I aligned it with the evaluation that I got as well. So I could use the data that the students gave me to then show my principal. And sometimes that led to some real conversation about some things that I could change and do better. And I was always open and honest and had a growth mindset about those things. But it also gave me a chance to demonstrate to my teacher that I was doing my job as well. And a lot of these things about allowing the students to take control of the learning in the class and helping the students with their individual needs. I loved how Edmodo helped facilitate a lot of that. I could go into the assignment comments on Edmodo and give kids feedback on their assignments and go back and forth with them until they achieved mastery. And so I think because of Edmodo, I was able to move away from simply just differentiating, which you can do really well with the small groups feature and posting assignments to small groups, but beyond differentiation and into individualization. And I think there's no platform that does that better than Edmodo does. And so I could use the Google Forms results that my students would give me, or they give me some positive feedback because of the way I'm using Edmodo. And then I could share that with my principal and also have it inform my practice as well. So if you're interested in getting a copy of this survey, if you'd like to have it, I'd be happy to share that with you. I'd also really encourage, I know we're coming near the end of our time here on this webinar, but if you go to Edmodo and are interested in more of some of the things that I've talked about, you can go right up here and type in Edmodo, Google, and once you start to type that, the Edmodo topic for Edmodo and Google integration will come up. And for a while now, again, the post that's pinned across the top will be Google Sheets that shows lots of different videos that I've created and lots of different ideas. I would love to start hearing from more and more of you out there that are using Google Apps for Education at Edmodo together. And I'd love for this place where there's 888 followers and growing, where we can share ideas and ask questions and really become a community of learners. That was really my vision for this topic when I talked with Edmodo and when we put this together, was that this would really become a collaborative learning space for us to really share ideas and help each other out. And so please, if you have questions about anything that I've talked about, or you'd like me to do some screencast over a different topic that you're thinking of, any questions at all, I'm going to be very responsive in this topic here and would love to help you out. It's a lot more fun for me when I know that I'm really meeting the needs of the people out there that have questions that they'd like to have addressed, rather than just making a video that I think you might find useful. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and check one more time. We've got 3 more minutes and see if there's any other questions out there on the Q&A or the chat. Don't see any on the Q&A, but I'll go ahead and take a look at the chat. Nothing there. And I will take a look at the Google Plus page. And I'm not seeing anything new there either. So with that, I think I'll go ahead and call it a day. I hope that you found this webinar useful and informative. And again, please follow along on this Edmodo and Google integration topic. And please share any ideas, questions, or resources that you have up on this topic. All right, with that, I hope you all have a great night. And I really hope that your school year gets off to a great start. All right, take care.